Hello, time for another Man in Gray book review. Today's book is 12 Angry Men by Reginald Rose with an introduction by David Mamet. This play was originally produced as a television script in 1954. It was expanded into a full-length play in 1956 and published in 1957. It was also made into a film that year. This edition is from 2006. It's 96 pages. Reginald Rose was a screenwriter and playwright who was born in 1920 and died in 2002. Far and away, his best-known work is this play, 12 Angry Men. The genesis of the play goes back to when Rose was actually called on to jury duty. He was called to serve on a manslaughter case, and the jury deliberations took 8 hours and became rather heated at times. When they finally reached a verdict, and Rose was released from jury duty, he thought to himself, this is really dramatic. This would make a great play. And he realized that no one had ever done a play about jury deliberations. There's been plenty of trial dramas or courtroom dramas, but they always take place in the court with the judge and jury and witnesses and so forth. But the twist in this play is it's a murder trial, but the entire play takes place in the jury room. There's only one set. At the beginning of the play, you hear off stage the judge's instructions to the jury. The jury comes in, and the entire play is them arguing over whether this guy's innocent or not. The basic plot is about there's a teenage Puerto Rican man who is accused of stabbing to death his father during an argument. Most of the jurors are convinced that he's guilty. They think it's an open shut case. But when they poll the jury, there's one juror, juror number 8, who votes not guilty because he's troubled by some of the inconsistencies in the testimony. Now, the play's called 12 Angry Men, but really there's only 3 of the jurors that are really angry. Juror number 3 is a businessman who got a very short temper, and he's very upset because to him it seems obvious that this kid is guilty of the murder. Juror number 7 is a guy who doesn't really care that much about the trial at all. He doesn't really care whether the guy's innocent or not. He just wants to get through because he has tickets to a ball game that night, and he's afraid that if the jury deliberations run too long, he's going to miss the game. So his whole focus is on getting out as soon as possible. And then juror number 10 is bigoted, prejudiced against Puerto Ricans. And so he's convinced that this guy's guilty simply because of his ethnicity. And then there's another juror, juror number 12, who's kind of wishy-washy. He goes back and forth 3 times during the trial, changing his vote back and forth. And so the juror number 8 is sort of our protagonist. He's the guy who's arguing that this guy's should be, there's a reasonable doubt that he did it. Even though at first it looks like all the evidence is against him, but when he starts examining individual testimony and statements, they don't match up. There's contradictions, and he gradually starts convincing other jurors to change their vote. And the 3 jurors I just mentioned, 3, 7, and 10, are kind of opposed to him, and they fight to the very last minute to try to get this kid convicted. It's a really fascinating play. It's held up over time. It's been done multiple times. It was done as a film directed by Sidney Lumet in 1957, and then in the 1990s it was done as a television play. Another television play, and then it's been revived multiple times on Broadway and off-Broadway. So it's held up over time. One of the interesting things, and something that doesn't often get mentioned, is there's a more subtle message here. On one level, it's just a whodunit. Did this kid actually kill his father, or was there somebody else? And the whole thing is played out as a jury deliberation, which is kind of unique. But there's a more subtle message going on. This play came out during the height of the McCarthy era, when innocent people were being dragged in front of the House Un-Americans Activity Committee, and their careers were ruined because they were accused, sometimes falsely, of being communist or being aligned with communists. And many of these people were blacklisted and lost their jobs for years, couldn't work. And so, and on the flimsiest evidence, or just not evidence at all. Some people were just prejudiced against these people because they were political liberals, and so they wanted to ruin them. And the whole point of the play is this kid comes very close to being convicted of murder and sentenced to death. And if it wasn't for that one juror, juror number 8, holding out and saying, let's look at the evidence, he would have been convicted. And there's several people in the jury pool who didn't really even bother to pay attention to the evidence, like the sports fan who just wants to get through. And so I think Rose is making a point about the American justice system and how flimsy its foundations are, because all it takes is a handful of people voting to convict somebody to take their life. So it's kind of a message about the need for the judicial system to be fair and honest, and for people to take an honest look at the evidence and not just dismiss people because of prejudices or because of arbitrary things like wanting to get out and go to a ball game. So it's a really good play. It holds up really well upon reading. A lot of plays, when you read them and you see them in a theater, they're two completely different experiences. This is very dialogue heavy. It's very constricted, taking place in just a jury room. So it works really well as a play to be read. The book is 12 Angry Men. The author is Reginald Rose. This has been another Man in Great Book Review. Thanks for watching.